Good afternoon, everyone. We're going to do this session and make most of it and make it interesting for you all before you all break for lunch. Sabas has set the tone for us and we are ready for the world. But in wedding design, it's the smallest details that matter the most, you know. Whether it's a delicate floral design that you need to get right, or a beautifully plated dish that needs to be presented, or a handmade motif that is done for the design elements of the invite, stationery, anything that goes out for the wedding. So it is these tiniest details that really make a difference, proving that every detail matters. And hence today, as Pooja elaborated, we are going to divide this in 4 parts so that we try and make it very constructive for all of y'all. We'd like to touch upon the business side of details, client collaboration. What are the different operational excellence and difficulties or challenges that one faces, and how do you really make a difference with detailing? And we've got experts here who have been in the design space in different capacities, spend more than a decade, all of them, doing this day in, day out, making a difference year on year to this business, to the work that they do. So I'm going to start with the creativity side of things because that's what we need to first talk to them. They are all creative people. I'm sure they like talking creativity more than business. So I'm going to start with that, and I'll start with Dinaz. Dinaz, how do you spark and keep your creativity alive? How do you think year on year of newer concepts? Give us that one mantra that has really worked for you and that keeps you at the top of your game.
Hi, everyone. Creativity, inspiration comes from everywhere for me. It can come from a stucco wall in Italy. It can come from Haveli in Udhampur. It can come from an LED wall, an LED installation in Singapore. Anywhere, anyhow. I think the ability to observe, to ingest things around us is my thing. That's where I get it from.
Dinaz, you did this amazing Ganesh for the Ambanis. Tell us a little about it. How did that thought come and how did you really work on that piece?
So the inspiration, so to speak, for that came from Mrs. Ambani herself. She is a great champion of handicraft and she's very passionate about it. She wanted to explore this whole concept of how we can use leaf craft this time. She's an avid lover of flowers, but this time she said, let's try leaf. So we went all over the world and looked for leaf artisans and creative people who work with leaf, and we came about doing this whole installation of these 7 Ganeshas dancing in a procession made completely from leaf, from start to finish. And I wish I had a picture, but it was quite a learning journey because I think one of the nicest things that came about that was we held workshops for our indigenous leaf workers, and we created a lot of opportunity for them to learn how to do these things which were, hitherto the domain of international craftsmen. So I like to think that we increase that knowledge base a little.
That's beautiful, and I think that's exactly where there's a certain globalization and the collaboration that happens that, experts like you bring on the table, and something that inspires all of us to do better work year on year. My next question comes to Rakhee. The food scenes are getting, I would say, very aspirational more than anything. Everybody wants to see this visually really pretty plated dishes, and the benchmarks are going higher and higher. Can you just take us through one particular concept that you would have done, and if you would like to deconstruct it for us from, inception to execution, how did you do it? And what's your thought process when it comes to creating it?
Okay, so innovation comes when you start feeling there is a gap somewhere. Where do we actually, when I started, this is 10 years ago, and thanks to Samit, he spotted me and he found a little talent that has grown to what it has today. When I first started in this space, I realized that people were making such beautiful food, but it was put out so poorly that it wasn't appetizing. So the problem here was that the visual appeal was completely missing. So we fixed that, and now everyone at their end has tried to fix it quite beautifully. I see everywhere I go, people are coming up with really beautiful innovation around their food creations. But somehow I feel now that there is a lack of experience that's missing around the food. So where I would like to now start putting in my effort is creating a sensory experience around food. When I say that, I mean it starts with the visual appeal. So you feast with your eyes, yes. You look at something, you're attracted to it. Next is the taste. If it doesn't taste right, it's not going to be, doesn't matter what it looks like. But my job here right now is to also create the atmosphere it's in. Right now, how are we putting food? We take a banquet hall, we take the perimeter of the banquet hall and we start lining up food like a train ka dabba. Bas khana lagate ja rahe hai, 200, 300 meter. It's not finishing. But when people really go back to their homes, kal hame yaad hai hum 4 din pehle kya khana khaye the? We cannot remember. Even if it was the best food, we just cannot remember. So the innovation in this space that I would like to bring in is an experience that actually you take back with you when you go back and you cannot forget it. And the way to do this is to start combining multiple layers of collaborations. And this is why we're all sitting here. So the process that Aarti actually asked me about starts from Huisha, where you actually start from the vision of the invitation of the event. Then comes to Dinaz, where she visualizes the whole event in a certain way. She has a vision, a color palette, motifs, florals that she has planned. And then I step in right after, where I start creating the atmosphere, the way the space looks, smells, feels. And then we put the food right there. So when you go back, you take back some memories and not just the taste. Thank you.
You forgot the planner in all of this. I'm sitting here right here with you.
You're like
I'm the one
guru
who stitches it in for you all. No. But jokes aside, what Rakhee said is so beautiful. And I wish we all could do it that way and really make it so seamless. But more than often, that's the challenge we face and it does not really happen. But that's something which I think our efforts should be, that to seamlessly bring design on the same page where elements are all reflecting in the story in whatever we do. And Huisha, you start this. So I'm sure the brief that you very often or more than often get is to bespoke things and to make it bespoke. How do you start this entire presentation, and what inspires you to start this? What is that first few things that you'd really like to know, either from a couple, family, or planner, to make sure that you are putting that foundation absolutely right, which will reflect whatever needs to be done as a vision for the wedding?
Well, good afternoon, everybody. When someone comes to me, and this happens in two ways, either the families come to me themselves or they come through an event team. In both eventualities, once the technicalities are out of the way and we're sitting down to get the party so-called started, I like to meet the family. So I'd sit down with the family, with the couple, if that's their dynamic, depending, and I let them talk and I listen. We take meticulous notes. And their story kind of tells itself. Very often in the subliminal messaging, in the subconscious, the certain things that they want to put across, be that to their guests, to something they've seen, something they've been inspired by, their narrative, their stories, an art form that they feel very strongly about. I let that then become the hero of the narrative. Then, of course, I mean, the technicalities step back in. We make a mood board, color palettes, fonts, everything is put in place, such that after that first meeting, which is very extensive, things then go on to autopilot. We don't need to meet again. We have a WhatsApp group. Everything is a lot more seamless.
At some point, do you think, Huisha, you would like to speak to the decor designer in this journey? And what is that point that you think it's important for you to get involved and even pass down a certain amount of information that probably is relevant to reflect in designs?
Very much so. So in fact, that's a fantastic question. Actually, it's a couple of different ways that we'd go about that. It could either be that, you know, by the time the family comes to us, their themes are in place. In such an eventuality, the team gives me, you know, swatches, PDFs, PPTs, whatever of the decor, and should the family want, that finds its way into the invites and the stationery subsequently. More often than not, the family or the couple want us to curate the themes for them. That's at the very beginning then, you know, when monograms and such are being put into place. So we'd really curate each of the 5, 6, 4, whatever functions ke themes, give them a couple of different options. And if that's the limit of the involvement they want, that's handed over to the event team. They take it on from there. Should they want us to design themes, curate mood boards for each respective event theme, we're able to do that as well. In that case, we'd like to sit down with the decor team simply to see what is logistically possible to be executed or not. Dancing monkeys in galoshes pirouetting on the moon may sound fantastic if I generate it, but it may not translate. Budgets and, you know, logistics may not allow for it. So different requirements see us stepping in different capacities with different amounts of involvement. But conceptualization is at the heart of it. I do not execute. I enjoy creating and curating those ideas. And then the event teams bring them to life. Decor event.
You know, in our industry, more than often, I think somewhere there is a certain amount of overstepping that happens, maybe not deliberately, but, you know, unknowingly. And that's sometimes, I feel, where the communication is so important to collaborate and work rightly as a team. And I think that's one thing I'd like to just put out there for people, that when y'all are working, it's really important as a planner, if you are a planner, to make sure that you have spoken and the communication is to point with every team that is involved. Because that's where you will be able to really make sure that the collaboration is happening more than the overstepping. You know, and that's really, really important. Talking of collaborations with clients, given today's times where the bride or the groom is first looking out and searching for everybody else rather than the planner, more than often, Dinaz, you must be getting those calls from the brides directly, of the families directly, where they've already decided and they know what they want. And now they're asking you to put their vision in through your creativity. Tell us a little about that. How do you tackle that?
I think it all starts with their vision. Nowadays, brides and grooms are very knowledgeable. They know everything. They have Pinterest. They have everything. Like, they know. At least for the last few years, I've found that there's very rarely this time where they come and they say, what do you think? They know exactly what they want. And for us, then it becomes this whole story of bringing to life what they want and eventually putting them in that situation, in that dream which they have dreamt, essentially.
How do you do that? Just elaborate a little on that. How would you do that?
It's actually quite simple. I just dream what they want, what they've dreamt. It's their dream. It's their once-in-a-lifetime occasion. And for me to deliver that dream, for us to be able to present to them that dream and bring it into life for them, that's the way to do it for me.
Have you at any point felt that it is not in sync with the kind of creativity that you would like to put into that vision? Or are there any non-negotiables as a designer that you feel that, okay, this is something where I am not going to be able to bring it to life the way you are dreaming? Because of course they've given you a vision, but at the same time you're the designer. And it's your creativity that has to come to life.
It has happened, yes. I'm sure it's happened to all of us.
Why I'm asking this is because this is something which we all face as a problem statement more than often. And we just want to make sure that we're hearing from you. How do you tackle? It's going to help some people to understand how to tackle situations like that.
I'm sure in this gathering of ours where all of us have faced this sometime or the other. And sometimes we prevail and sometimes we don't. And I think it's just a little bit of give and take, and where we can convince and where we can't. It just depends on the amount of authenticity that we can bring to it to explain to them that it's better this way. I find more often than not, because of the amount of experience that we have now, I think they do differ more often than not.
Yeah, I think that's very interesting that, when you come from a space of experience and you know how to tackle situations like that, it's easier. But also with a lot of young and, new entrants in the industry, it probably gets a little difficult. How was it for you, Huisha, in your early days when you faced a situation like that?
When we started, it was a mix of trying to educate the client or the family on what is aesthetically pleasing and harmonious. And then I realized it's their special day. This is not my circus. It's not my job to be educating them on what is artistic and what isn't. But yes, if in the last analysis, said creative does not work out looking fantastic, it will be my problem, right? Then no one remembers, but आपने बोला था इन 50 चीज़ों को डालने के लिए. So we kind of, in fact, we were discussing this yesterday as well, You let them talk, like I was saying earlier. You put the thoughts together, and then you kind of see what is and isn't in sync. A. B, I think it's a case of, fine, you want 8 things. Of those, 2 are non-negotiable. Another 1 or 2 are a little bit hard. 1, I'll put myself out for. You meet me halfway, So we talk budgets, we talk timelines. That in itself rules out a number of things. And then we work with what we have on the table and say, look, these are the things that you can work with. Does this speak to you? And more often than not, like Dinaz ji said, they come around. Because they're also, more often than not, practical people who know that in the last analysis, I have a deadline. I have a father who needs to send it out before Shraddh season starts. See, I have printed invites which will not go in the mithai ka dabba if I don't have that fabricated in time. There's a back and forth. You create the comfortable space. You make it a conversation. You don't make it a fait accompli. And then things start moving. Yeah.
Rakhee, your clients more than often, I would think, are planners and catering partners, right? More than working directly with families. Maybe sometimes you probably, get approached by the families directly. When you're collaborating and working with wedding planners or with catering companies, at what point should they involve you in the process? Because I'd let you just elaborate on this, that how important and at what point should they really get you and introduce you into this entire process?
Okay, so ideally, if a client comes to me right at the beginning, so like you asked me, so I have inquiries coming from all 3 spaces equally, where, once you've attended something and you've liked something, you make that effort of finding out who's done it. So clients do that. And platforms like this, like ICWF, gives me the exposure of meeting many planners and designers. So they see my work, and then they sometimes reach out to me when they feel that, I might be able to add value into that space. And lastly, we have the caterers, who often feel that when there are multiple people catering at the same event, They want to make sure that everyone stands out and they all look equal, and that is the power of working together. So those are the scenarios where a lot of people reach out to me in different formats. And the way I work with them is I follow a simple formula called the VTM. Understanding the vision of the client. What are they trying to do with the event? Are they keeping it warm? Are they keeping it simple? Are they keeping it grand? Are they trying to prove a point? Are they trying to impress? Where are the bridegroom or their parents trying to go with this event? Secondly comes the event designer. What vision do they have? Like, how detailed are they going with their work? And third comes the planner, like you were talking about, where they can support the infrastructure around it. So it's total collaboration. And we start with vision boards from the designer. We then work on the themes given to us, given to me by the planner and the designer. And then we see the planner can also help us basically understand what entertainment is available, what other partners, how we can make the food very, very experiential, like I was talking about. So the planner often steps in and says, you know what, but this is available and we can use this. And they actually allocate spaces to us, which is really important. Otherwise, no vision of mine can actually come to any fruition if I don't have the space to do it. And lastly, it's the caterers who actually come up with brilliant, fantastic, really long, beautiful menus. So it's basically putting all these three pieces together and then churning out a design that fits in so beautifully that you cannot distinguish on the day who has done the design, who has done the food, who has curated the tablescape. And that is the idea of bringing me on board.
As we're talking of detailing, and it's all about that every detail matters. Dinaz, this one's for you. You know, what decor details more than often are compromised in your view, and why? My question to you is, Dinaz, that what decor details are often compromised in your view and why?
If we have a detail in my head that I want, then I don't compromise.
No, that's perfect.
So
but probably having seen around in an entire project, in the entirety, if something gets missed upon and compromised, more than often, what is that detail and why do you think that happens?
The only thing I can put my finger on is where we work. There I find sometimes a lack of skill and knowledge. We heard in the morning, there are certain standards that are adhered to all over the world. Sometimes in my part of the woods, that seems to get compromised a bit. Working on it, we're trying to increase the skill set, we're trying to bring knowledge to the kind of people who don't have it yet. But I find that is the time when I need to, when I find myself compromising is because of lack of awareness and knowledge on the part of a lot of providers who are lacking in that specific field.
I think over the last 2 days, we've definitely gathered that upgrading skills, knowledge, and bringing more skill into the industry is absolutely the need of the hour. That kind of applies to every aspect of our business right now. Rakhee, coming to you, portion size servings, pan to plate, live stations, bringing in international celebrated chefs, all of this has been happening, and it's the detailing that is everybody focusing. Where do you think it's happening a lot and you see some of this is not needed and failing? What is that one thing that you feel is being overdone right now?
I don't know, you know, I just think कि हम जब कोई caterer को involve करते हैं और हमें लग रहा है कि हम उसे we are paying them a certain amount of money, उससे जितना खाना उस दिन बनवा सकते हैं हम सब बनवा रहे हैं without actually giving thought to what is going to stand out. And I really feel कि we have too much rather than, you know, something which stays with you. बस बहुत है, हर दिन बहुत है. And in terms of your question, everything is good when it is done up to a limit and to an extent which has care involved in it. But when the menus go overboard in terms of accommodating 500 dishes, something does get compromised. And I feel the most popular food segment that I have always seen and they are not the prettiest, by the way. They are not my favorite design-wise, but for the guests, the most interesting space to eat from is a live counter. They love the interaction with the chef. They love the fact that they can choose, they can make things bespoke to the way they like to eat. So that one flies really well. It doesn't matter वो कैसा दिख रहा है, वो जो chef है वो कहाँ से कौन से गली से आया, it doesn't matter. Because of the simple human emotion attached to it is the interaction. And what I feel personally that fails is when we try too hard to bring restaurant experiences that we have had abroad. We try and bring those really large names, those big brands, thinking that that's going to really impress our guests. Yes, it does. When you see the board outside, you're like, oh my God, you know, so-and-so restaurant is here from London, from Dubai. But when those chefs come, we are not able to give them the kitchen space, the kitchen equipment, the ingredient quality that is required. So often people are very excited about the brand that comes in, but when they leave, they're like, you know, it hasn't stayed with them because they didn't get the avocado that they've used in their original restaurant that you have the memory of that taste about. You know, you're like, okay, yeah, whatever. The cilantro is not right. The parsley is not right. And we feel these are such small ingredients. Say, kya hai, bazaar se mangwa lenge. But it just doesn't work out for them. So I think considering the amount of effort, time, energy, logistics we spend on bringing these guys from abroad, if we are not able to provide them the infrastructure, we should not have them. So that's my take on this space.
I think Sanjay definitely resonates with this thought. I can see it from here in his eyes that yes, you're speaking my language. No, it makes sense what you're saying, and that's something for all of us to be a little more aware of, that while we're trying to oversell, we need to be sure, is it something we can deliver? That's most important to make the experience really beautiful for our clients, which is definitely our first duty to do. And Huisha, coming to you, what is the kind of detailing that you feel that never should be missed in the space you are in?
I think when you come to designers like us, anybody, depends on what domain, but just really most of the people sitting in this room, we operate on bespoke, on customization. So the one detail that should never be missed is making it about the couple or the family or their legacy or a story. If you want pret couture, don't go to an haute couture place. It's an insult of their talent and it's a waste of your time and very hard-earned money, because none of us come cheap, you know. So I think, like just now, in fact, 3 days ago, we did this invitation for somebody on this sort of like a velvet backdrop, all digital. Now it will translate into fabrication. Kalamkari, but make it hand embroidered. So I'm a big fan of dipping into traditional art forms, or, you know, rural styles, or modern art, something you've seen. So many NRI couples nowadays study abroad, have like a museum or an art gallery story, which they want to then weave into the narrative of their invites, but they want to give it a customized spin. I think that attention to detail, we've been going on about it for the past hour really, but the little things, you know, slipping the Easter egg in, the couple met on Bumble, so we throw in a little bumblebee on top. Or, you know, there's this promise of, you know, Janam Janam mein, not only through the happy summers, but also through the cold winters. For example, this one wedding that I just did for someone. So I sat down actually with the event team and the decorators and all of that, and we curated the themes for each function based on seasons, right? So winter is one, summer is one, autumn, so on and so forth. And in the visuals, we throw in a little this and that. She likes her espresso martinis. He doesn't do his food very spicy. So that found a way into the narrative. They carry this through their lives. And the gratitude you see in their eyes when they tell you, yeah, that's the other thing. Exogenous, you made me forget my word. Exogenous appreciation, validation is what I was looking for. Exogenous validation really justifies people's efforts. I mean, they know what you've made is fantastic. But when the messages start coming in, the tonality changes, you know?
Isn't that what we do this mad job for, all of us? Like, this is what we want. That's the biggest joy that we get, those messages.
No, for the client. When the client gets the appreciation messages, their tonality towards you changes.
Exactly. It's a ripple effect, you know?
I like that. Exogenous validation.
You know, people save the best for the last, but I have saved challenges to be discussed the last, you know. Before we open up for questions from people who want to definitely know a little more from you all, we'll give some time for that. So let me quickly touch upon this one, you know, challenge or not, I don't know, but AI. Dinaz, have you warmed up to it? Is it your companion or is it your competition right now?
No, I have indeed started using a lot of it. There's two sides to it, like everything else in life, the duality of it. It has made life easier, it has made presentations easier, it has made visualization, ideation easier. What used to take us like 3 to 5 days to do now happens in 3 minutes, literally. The marriage of concepts like French, Indian something, garden, will happen effortlessly, where otherwise one would have to get into detail and research and all that. This happens like instantaneously, which I like. On the flip side, for us as visualizers and executors, I find that sometimes the visualization is not very much based in reality. So that becomes difficult to execute because you've shown this beautiful thing and then you want to stay true to that. And sometimes it's just difficult to do because it's not based in reality. That is the
What's
difference.
the way around this, you think, Dinaz? What's the best way around this when you're presenting something that is produced through AI to a client and you feel that when they start talking numbers and when they start actually sitting, and you're sitting with the production team, you know, when you're deep diving into it with your entire collaborative partners on board, you feel there's going to be a gap between reality and what has happened. What's the best way to address this and how do you do this?
For the most part, stay true to the vision. It's difficult when the production guys say, "Ye to nahi hoinga," and then it's like, "Oh God, what do I do now?" Out of experience now, because we've been using this for some time, we tend to temper it down.
In the beginning.
In the beginning.
Yeah. So that's what I wanted to hear, and everybody, we should temper it down in the beginning and maybe go a little conservative initially and then probably build it up rather than start with a build up and then try to keep bringing it down, you know, in scale and size and vision. How about you, Huisha? How effectively are you warming up?
We're very bullish on AI. I'm a very big fan of AI and we've embraced it.
What are the tools that have been mid-journey, I'm sure you'll say, but what else?
Not so much.
No, really?
I don't use
Okay, give
mid-journey
us
so
some
much.
more.
No. A whole bunch of things and I'm happy to like kind of collate the list. They'll never come at the top of your head when you want them to.
Please say so.
But
it will help our audience.
Happily. At the beginning, a couple of my designers came to me and they were very insecure about them being replaced, you know, and because now their jobs have been made redundant. And I was very honest about it because I am the boss in the last analysis, so I need to remind them that they are not, what's the word I'm looking for? Indispensable. They're not indispensable, right? But they are only not indispensable to the extent that they make themselves lazy. Should they think that, you know, the template was working Now there is a machine that does the template much more efficiently, and so now I will show them the door. But as long as they're ideating and curating, we're just using it as a tool. And you know, this resistance to progress has been a very old thing. When photography came in, painters were very skeptical and very scathing of photography, you know. When, I mean, yesterday Zoya Akhtar and all were talking about when television came in, people were insecure about the future of cinema. Everything has its place. But AI makes our processes a lot more efficient. In fact, what you're talking about, where, you know, sometimes AI visualization is a little bit too fantastical to translate into reality, that is a hiccup that I faced at the beginning in two ways. One, where clients would come to me with preconceived looks and feels and say, you know, I've got this generated and why can't you pull this off? And I'd be very honest about them, about it with them. This is more an issue with corporate clients where there's this sort of a professional wall between yourself. We do corporate as well. So where there's a professional wall between yourself and them, it can't happen because, just so. They don't want that. Now that I sit them down and I say, pulling this off would mean this. It would either increase your budgets or your time or my man force, etc. Then they say, okay, then what can you do, you know? So it's fantastic. We use it to enhance, to animate further, to clean up, polish up, whatever. But the ideation and the conceptualization is always original, you know? Like, sure, like I'm going back to the Kalamkari instance, so let's talk about Pottochitro, another art form typical to Bengal. I went to the village. I met the artisans. I saw them pull out their scrolls. I took one person from my team. We took extensive photographs. Then we generated it digitally.
That's
root
amazing.
Is
That's
always
beautiful.
Original. Because otherwise they're dime a dozen. They're all over Pinterest and then I will be replaceable, you know. There'll be no need for me then.
Rakhee, one challenge that you more than often face in the space that you work in. And how do you think we should overcome that?
Okay, so my biggest challenge is awareness. I think people don't give this space enough thought and they feel कि हम, okay, coming back to your AI point, कि हम Pinterest से कुछ image दिखा के हम कर लेंगे. So yesterday, you know, I have to mention this. I'm sorry, I'm just going a little out of topic, but I have to just express myself on stage that I loved Anna's presentation yesterday. I was actually really overtaken by her creativity and what AI can actually bring to the table. But somewhere when we start using, like how we've started, and I haven't started using AI in my work yet, but like how we've started using Pinterest, you know, it just gives you a feel of an unreal world and your expectations are at another level and somewhere your originality comes to a standstill because you search a word and you get 20 other ideas that blossoms from that word and somewhere you lose your own narrative. So I really think my personal challenge is where clients don't understand the relevance of detail because they are only looking at a very large picture. They somewhere feel that my work is totally not required till 2 weeks before when everything else is sorted and then they're like, oh my God, we have so much food. What are we going to do with it? How are we going to present it? What are the dishes? What's the cutlery? So my challenge is that time is a big factor, budgets are a big factor, and awareness is the last one that actually propels the others. But you know, if people are aware, people know, and I would urge the planners, I would urge the designers to push people to getting into detail, whether with me or someone else, doesn't matter. But it's, I think, our job as a community to educate and expand everyone's knowledge. And the journey from, you know, the journey should begin from camera to cutlery. You know, where you look at the food and you want to take out your camera before you pull out the spoon or the fork. And I wish we are able to achieve that sooner.
That's lovely and very well summed up. We're going to open for questions if anybody has any questions for our brilliant and esteemed panelist. Yeah, Mr. Shirodkar has a question.
Hi guys, first of all, thank you for a really incisive and an articulate session. 4 gorgeous women. They say God is in the details, but I think women are in the details. So thank you for that. So the question which I have for you guys is that how challenging and difficult is it to amplify details in the big Indian wedding? We all know, for small weddings and small occasions, amplification of whether it is design or whether it is, table settings, etc. is pretty much, you have a very clean canvas to work in. But with big weddings, how challenging is it in terms of bringing that detail to life?
Should I take that question? Because it actually really implies to me in a larger format, because hers is doing cards which are not really bound by the number of guests that are present at the wedding. For me, it becomes really challenging when I have a lot of different caterers with different food who've just arrived one day before the event and are still trying to figure out their kitchen space and have no clue what they need to do once the food is being produced. The way to deal with this is where we start engaging with them on a one-to-one level, start working. So it's about team division and getting into, when the wedding is very large and the production is large, we need to have a larger team. So number one, we should not think that hum sab kuch akele kar sakte hain. The idea is to get more people on board. Again, coming back to skill training, teaching them what to expect. So the person leading the project needs to actually give little mandates to people as to what they need to derive out of them. And lastly, just how we break down a little square. Each table is a little square. So yes, sometimes you have 2, sometimes you have 20, sometimes you have 200. So we have to look at each table as a small square and start dealing with them and start making lists. And we have fantastic tools. Excel works like magic. Use it, guys. It really, really works.
Maybe an idea for somebody to develop an AI tool for that. We have Manika ji asking something.
Thank you for a wonderful session, and I love detail, so that's godliness. This one's out, Dinaz, to you and Huisha to you, because it's about the start of the creative bit. And not so much to you, Rakhee, because you anyways come in where the client is already into the detail and enjoys. But decor and invites, graphics, they come in because it's a given. Do you come across a situation, because I know both your works, I know how extremely detail-oriented you both are. Does it so happen that in your pursuit of design, you are diving into details, but then you realize कि client को तो फर्क ही नहीं पड़ता, क्योंकि client का तो level ही एक certain level पे है ना? So do you get caught with the fact, I'm sorry Randy, I'll put that in English, that what I meant to say was that, does it ever happen that when you're designing something and you appreciate the detail, you are willing to walk that extra path because that's your personal standard, because you're used to that exogenous validation which came from the past work, which was so absolutely intricate, and that's your gold standard for yourself. But then how do you respond or react or pull back when you realize that actually the client is not as evolved?
And do you pull back? And do you pull back?
Yes, it does happen sometimes when you're into the process and you realize that your standards are higher than the ones of the client. Yeah, I know. Look at her. Look at her. I don't think the pullback.
Pullback doesn't happen, but how do you lower your standards is what the question is, I'm guessing. Or for that matter, how do you handle that situation?
In all honesty, maybe go a little easier on myself if I feel the need to, honestly speaking, but that's only between me and me. Yeah? Yeah.
Very, very articulate. Yeah, I would say something similar. It's happened before. I'm not saying it in vernacular, but basically I've been told, Huisha ji, we don't understand these things and the guests are not going to follow. You know this, the couple knows this, ji. Let's get the invite out. Yes, I just go easier on myself then. I will still have a little fun for my own sake, for my own, yes, satisfaction. But say, for example, this one time where, you know, for a bride and a groom, we pulled out the groom's mother passed away at a very young age. So unbeknownst to him, we pulled out letters that his mother had written, and I kind of traced her initials to make their wedding monogram, right? Now that level of detailing remained just with the bride and the groom in the immediate family, right? The guests don't know, and should they not be told, they'd leave the wedding never having known these things. But that kind of personal touch you give when you see that it would be well appreciated, that it would land and it would be carried through. They've got monogrammed towels and stationery made of that subsequently, you know. But you do that when there is a requirement or an appreciation for it. Yeah.
We get lucky when we get lucky, when we get that client where I think compromise is a big part of our day-to-day work, and how do we really go easy on things when we have to. But yeah, we get lucky when we get those clients who we can really feel we are on the same wavelength, you know. So thank you. This was our time, and I hope this was helpful to all of you all. And these lovely ladies are going to be here all day, so anybody who'd like to do an interaction and know more about their work, please do so. Thank you.